Today I'm going to tell you, based on data collected from 500 couples around the world, what is the average length of intercourse? And I promise you, the answer is going to surprise you. I'm Dr. Fiona Gray, your trusted men's health advisor, and make sure you watch closely because what you think is normal is probably very different from what's actually happening in bedrooms around the world. If you want to understand what's realistic versus what's fantasy, hit that subscribe button because what we're covering today is based on actual time data, not guesswork or exaggeration. In modern society, we spend a lot of time glorifying what sex should look like, how long it should last, and putting a lot of value on this. But ultimately, all this pressure can have a real detrimental impact on our lives. What you hear about sex is not always accurate, particularly how long someone lasts in bed. So here is true, timed data on what the average length of intercourse actually is. Before I launch into the data, it's important to define what we're measuring. In this particular study, we're talking about penetration, from the initial penetration to ejaculation. It does not include foreplay. That doesn't mean that's what sex should mean for you, but that's how they defined it in this study. In medical terms, we call this intravaginal ejaculatory latency time, or IELT. So what do men think the ideal length of penetrative intercourse is? On average, men estimate the ideal length to be about 16 minutes, and the actual length, what they think people actually last for, is about 9 minutes. But what's the actual data? In this study of 500 couples from around the world, participants were asked to use a stopwatch to time their intravaginal ejaculatory latency time. What they found was that the average length was 5.7 minutes. That's it, 5.7 minutes. There was a range which included anywhere from about 6 seconds to 55 minutes. So some people did have a longer duration, but the average, the most common experience, was under 6 minutes. And interestingly, it varied by location. Turkey had the lowest average of 4.4 minutes, and the UK had the longest average of about 10 minutes. So that's what the average is. But what do women want? There's no good scientific study on this, but in a poll of 4,000 women, the average length of time that women desired for penetrative intercourse was 25 minutes. Again, this is variable from person to person, so I wouldn't put too much stock in these numbers. But here's what I want you to understand. There's a massive gap between what men think is happening, what's actually happening, and what both men and women think they want. Most men believe sex should last 15 to 20 minutes. Most women say they want 25 minutes. But the reality? The average is under 6 minutes. And here's the thing, that's completely normal. If you're lasting 5 to 7 minutes, you're right in the average range. You're not underperforming, you're not broken, you're normal. The pressure to last longer comes from unrealistic expectations, from adult films that don't represent reality, from exaggerated stories, from cultural myths about what real men should be able to do. But the data tells a different story. Now, the most important thing isn't hitting some arbitrary number. It's that you and your partner are both satisfied. And satisfaction doesn't just come from duration. It comes from connection, communication, and understanding what each of you actually enjoys. This is where honest conversation becomes absolutely critical. If you want to create truly satisfying experiences for both you and your partner, you need to understand what she actually wants, what makes her feel connected, and what brings her the most pleasure. That's why I put together a free guide called The Desire Playbook, 20 Best Sexual Questions to Ask a Woman. This guide gives you 20 powerful questions that open up real, honest conversations about pleasure, desire, expectations, and satisfaction. Inside, you'll discover questions that help you understand what she actually enjoys, what her ideal experience looks like, and how to align your expectations so you're both satisfied. These aren't awkward interview questions. They're conversation starters that create intimacy and understanding. You'll find it linked in the description below, and it's completely free. Here's the bottom line. The average length of penetrative intercourse is 5.7 minutes. Not 15, not 20, not 30. If you're lasting around that time, you're completely normal. The goal isn't to match some fantasy standard. The goal is to communicate with your partner, understand what satisfaction actually means for both of you, and create experiences where you're both fulfilled. If you are having difficulties with premature ejaculation, or if you're concerned about duration, talk to a healthcare provider. There are effective treatments available. But don't assume you have a problem just because you're not matching unrealistic expectations. Try having an honest conversation with your partner about what satisfaction actually means to her. You might be surprised to learn that duration isn't her top priority. Connection, foreplay, and feeling desired often matter much more than how many minutes penetration lasts. If this gave you a reality check you needed, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment and tell me if you were surprised by these numbers. I read every single one. Thanks for watching. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep taking care of yourself.